Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the intense drama unfolding on Thursday, January 29, as Port Charles finds itself gripped by multiple crises that will leave viewers on the edge of their seats. Emma and Gio's unexpected change of plans. The day begins with what should have been a straightforward mission turning into something far more complicated. Emma Scorpio Drake and Gio Palmieri had meticulously planned their rendezvous with the formidable Tracy Quartermaine at Drew Kane's residence, where they intended to assist her in reclaiming precious Quartermaine family heirlooms that Tracy firmly believes Drew has been hoarding in his... These aren't just any ordinary possessions. These are irreplaceable pieces of family history that carry generations of memories and significance for the Quartermaine legacy. However, as fate would have it, their carefully orchestrated plan hits an unexpected snag while they're still situated in Anna Devayne's comfortable condo. The young couple had returned to Anna's place with the seemingly innocent intention of grabbing some warmer clothes to protect themselves against the brutal winter weather that's descending upon Port Charles. But something shifts in Emma's mind as she stands there and suddenly the entire plan feels wrong to her. In a moment of sudden clarity or perhaps apprehension, Emma turns to Gio with an urgent declaration. No, this isn't going to work. Her repeated negatives suggest a growing sense of unease, or perhaps she's realized something critical about their plan that makes it untenable. Gio's expression reveals his confusion and doubt. He clearly wasn't expecting this abrupt change of heart from his girlfriend. The young Palmieri will undoubtedly press Emma for a thorough explanation about what's changed her mind so dramatically. Is it the dangerous weather conditions? Has she suddenly realized the legal implications of what they're about to do? Or perhaps she's concerned about the consequences if they get caught breaking into a congressman's home, even if their intentions are noble. Lulu's desperate search for Charlotte. Meanwhile, across town, Lulu Spencer finds herself spiraling into a state of absolute panic and desperation. Her daughter, Charlotte Cassadine, has pulled a disappearing act, sneaking out of the Metro Court Hotel where they've been staying. The teenager is presumably making her way toward the stables where her beloved horse Butterscotch is housed. But in the midst of an approaching blizzard, this spontaneous adventure has become a potentially life-threatening situation. The normally composed Lulu is completely losing her composure as maternal instinct and fear take over every fiber of her being, making matters exponentially worse. Lulu's police escort, the one security measure that was supposed to prevent exactly this kind of situation, has been reassigned to emergency response duties as the city braces for the massive snowstorm bearing down on Port Charles. This leaves Charlotte vulnerable and unprotected at the worst possible time. In her frantic state, Lulu has managed to track down Nathan West, and she pleads with him urgently, insisting that she needs his immediate assistance to locate her wayward daughter. Nathan's worried expression mirrors Lulu's own fears, and General Hospital spoilers strongly indicate that he'll agree to join the search effort despite the dangerous weather conditions. Their desperate hunt for Charlotte will take them to multiple locations throughout Port Charles, including the Bad Gen Cafe and various other spots where a rebellious teenager might seek refuge from the storm. There's even a strong possibility that Nathan and Lulu themselves may need to take shelter at one of these establishments as the blizzard intensifies around them. The irony of the situation won't be lost on viewers while Lulu tears the city apart searching for her daughter. Charlotte is actually perfectly safe and sound, completely unaware of the chaos her disappearance has caused, Portia's confrontation, and Trina's pain. In another corner of Port Charles, tension reaches a boiling point as Portia Robinson appears to be standing in the house that once represented her happy marriage to Curtis. Ashford. The location itself carries emotional weight. Every room holds memories of better times, making this confrontation even more charged with feeling. Portia's body language screams anger and frustration as she makes an explosive demand of someone present. Her words are firm and uncompromising. She insists they give her their time and attention, declaring emphatically that she absolutely won't allow them to ignore her presence or concerns any longer. The burning question remains, who exactly is Portia directing this fury toward? Is she finally having it out with her soon-to-be ex-husband, Curtis? Ashford demanding answers and closure about the dissolution of their marriage, or perhaps she's confronting her daughter, Trina Robinson, whose recent behavior or choices have pushed Portia to this breaking point. The evidence points strongly toward Trina being on the receiving end of this confrontation, as spoilers confirm that Trina will be voicing her own deep emotional pain during this encounter. Trina has found herself in an all-too-familiar painful situation. Her mother's tendency toward deception and withholding important information has reared its ugly head once again. Having been burned before by Portia's lies, Trina is now experiencing that same betrayal and hurt all over again. The mother-daughter relationship that once seemed so strong has developed serious fractures, and this confrontation may represent either the beginning of healing or a further deterioration of their bond. The emotional stakes couldn't be higher for both women as they navigate this turbulent moment in their relationship. Jocelyn's predicament on Spoon Island. Speaking of people in difficult situations, Jocelyn Jacks finds herself in possibly the most precarious position of all. In a twist of dramatic irony, Jocelyn, who is actually responsible for causing the power outage on Spoon Island to begin with, has apparently been caught in the act of snooping around where she shouldn't be. Prior to this discovery, there had been extensive discussions among Jen Sidwell, Marco Rios, Ava Jerome, and Lucas Jones about evacuating the island due to the deteriorating weather conditions. However, it appears that not everyone has left the premises, and whoever has remained behind has stumbled upon Jocelyn during her unauthorized investigation. The situation becomes even more complicated because whoever has discovered Jocelyn doesn't recognize her, leading them to the obvious but incorrect conclusion that she's a burglar who's broken into the property. This stranger attempts to confront what they perceive as a criminal intruder, prompting Jocelyn to respond with a question that's both defensive and attempting to sound casual. Who would want to break in here in this weather? It's a fair question on the surface after all. What kind of burglar would risk breaking and entering during a massive blizzard? But Jocelyn knows the truth of her situation, and now she's desperately trying to talk her way out of the mess she's created for herself. The most likely scenario is that she's encountered one of Sidwell's hired muscle, a goon who doesn't know who she is, but knows she shouldn't be. Jocelyn will need to think fast and be extremely convincing if she wants to extract herself from this dangerous predicament without revealing her true purpose for being there or ending up in even more serious trouble. Charlotte's discovery and anger. While Lulu frantically searches the streets of Port Charles for her missing daughter, the truth is far less dramatic than the worried mother fears. Charlotte is not only perfectly fine, she's quite comfortable, warm, and cozy in front of a crackling fire with Danny Morgan keeping her company. However, despite her physical comfort and safety, Charlotte's emotional state is anything but peaceful. The location appears to be somewhere within the sprawling Quartermain mansion, suggesting that Charlotte may have indeed checked on her precious horse Butterscotch at the stables and then convinced Danny to help her find shelter from the storm. But Charlotte's sanctuary has been tainted by information she's recently overheard, and that knowledge has set her blood boiling with betrayal and anger. She had the misfortune of eavesdropping on a private conversation between Nina Reeves and Jack Brennan, during which she learned some deeply disturbing information about the adults in her life. Jack had been attempting to pressure Nina into extracting intelligence about Valentin from Charlotte, essentially asking Nina to manipulate a probability child for classified information. The very idea of adults conspiring to use her as a pawn has understandably infuriated the young Cassadine. As Charlotte vents her frustration to Danny, her words are sharp and cutting. She tells him that her father has foolishly placed his trust in someone who turned out to be nothing more than a backstabbing traitor. While Charlotte is most likely referring to Jack Brennan, the man who wanted to use her against her own father, there's an interesting nuance to consider. Charlotte also overheard the portion of the conversation where Nina was unsuccessful in her attempts to get information, which could mean Charlotte's anger might be directed at either Jack or Nina, or possibly both of them. The betrayal cuts deep for Charlotte, who has already been through so much turmoil in her young life. And now she's discovering that the adults around her father are playing dangerous games with loyalties and trust. Valentin's fear and Carly's warning. At the same time, his daughter sits safely in the Quartermain mansion. Valentin Cassadine remains at Carly's house, consumed by terror for Charlotte's well-being. He has no idea where she is, whether she's safe, or what kind of danger she might be facing in the midst of this brutal storm. His paternal instincts are screaming at him to take action, and he insists to Carly with desperate urgency that he absolutely needs to find his daughter. He cannot simply sit here doing nothing while Charlotte is out there somewhere. But Carly, ever the pragmatist, despite her own impulsive tendencies, tells Valentin in no uncertain terms that he absolutely cannot do that. She understands the impossible position he's in. Yes, he's a father who wants to protect his child. But she also knows that if Valentin ventures out into Port Charles to search for Charlotte, he'll be exposing himself to capture by Jack Brennan and subsequent arrest. The moment Valentin steps outside, he becomes vulnerable to being taken into custody, which would leave Charlotte without a father and Valentin in a prison cell, unable to help anyone. Despite Carly's logical arguments and legitimate concerns for his safety, Valentin appears absolutely insistent on taking action. His desperation as a parent is overriding his survival instincts and common sense. This creates a fascinating standoff between two of Port Charles's most stubborn and strong-willed individuals. As spoilers point out, Valentin and Carly are remarkably well matched when it comes to sheer obstinacy and refusal to back down. The question now becomes whether either of them possesses the persuasive power to convince the other to see reason, or if this battle of wills between two immovable forces will escalate into something neither of them can control. Tracy's bold move and surprising discovery. Finally, no discussion of this episode would be complete without addressing Tracy Quartermain's characteristically bold and audacious actions. The matriarch of the Quartermain family has never been one to let little things like legality or social conventions stand in her way when she has a mission to accomplish, and today is no exception to that rule. Tracy has managed to obtain a copied key lifted from Scout Kane's personal belongings, and she's used it to gain entry into Drew Kane's house, while the congressman remains incapacitated in the hospital, unable to defend his property or stop her from taking what she believes rightfully belongs to her family. Tracy's mission is crystal clear. She's determined to reclaim the Quartermain family heirlooms that she's convinced Drew has been unlawfully keeping in his possession. These aren't merely valuable objects to Tracy. They represent her family's history, legacy, and identity. In her mind, Drew has been essentially stealing from the Quartermain heritage, and she's taking advantage of his hospitalization to right this wrong while he's powerless to prevent it. However, Tracy's carefully planned heist takes an unexpected turn when she makes a surprising discovery upon entering Drew's residence. Someone is already there, which she clearly wasn't anticipating. But rather than being intimidated or retreating, Tracy does what Tracy does best. She goes on the offensive. Her words to this unexpected occupant are delivered with trademark Quartermain imperious authority, as she essentially dares them to challenge her. Just try and throw me out. Tracy's tone suggests she knows exactly who this person is, which means this isn't a random stranger or burglar, but someone with their own connection to Drew's house, and possibly their own agenda for being there. The question of who this mystery person might be adds yet another layer of intrigue to an already complicated situation. Do they have a legitimate key to the house? Have they broken in like Tracy? Are they friend or foe? And most importantly, will they interfere with Tracy's mission to reclaim what she considers her family's rightful property? Thursday's episode promises to answer these questions, while likely creating a dozen more mysteries for viewers to puzzle over.